As a fire lookout, one of my responsibilities is to take weather readings twice a day. And to do that, I use this Forest Service weather kit. Two thermometers here. One is the wet bulb and one is the dry bulb, and I'll explain how they work later. Next thing in here is this wind meter. Next thing we have is this compass. Then I have a notebook to record the fire weather. I have a pen. I have a bottle of water. Here I have a clipboard and some papers. So the first thing I do when I take the weather, I take my bottle of water and I wet down this sleeve on this bottom thermometer. And I make sure I'm doing this in the shade, and then I spin it around. So the purpose of this is that the wet bulb measures the temperature considering water evaporation. So as the water evaporates, it'll pull heat from that thermometer and it'll always give a cooler temperature than the normal thermometer. And then using our elevation and the temperature and the difference between the two thermometers, we can figure out the relative humidity. So I swing this around for a while and then I check it. And right now it says 74 degrees, dry bulb, and the wet bulb says 59 degrees. So I'll spin it a little more and see if it goes any lower. And then once it stops, I'll record that number. I think that's as low as it's gonna go. So then in my notebook, I'll write down the date, the time, and then my dry bulb was 74 and my wet bulb was 59. The next we have to figure out what the relative humidity is. I'm sure there's a mathematical formula to it, but I have sheets with charts. So here we have a bunch of different charts corresponding to different atmospheric pressures. Unfortunately, I don't have a barometer, so I can't figure out the exact air pressure, but I can get pretty close simply by knowing what elevation I'm at. Our elevation corresponds roughly to 25 inches of mercury, and so I have this sheet out. I don't need any of the other ones. So now we take the sheet and we find our dry bulb on the side and our wet bulb on top. 74 degrees, and we go over to 59. Comes out to 43. The top number there is the dew point and the bottom number is the relative humidity. I only write down the relative humidity, so I don't record the dew point at all. So we'll write down our RH of 43%. The next thing we'll do is we'll record the wind. So the way this wind meter works, so you stand facing the wind so that the holes are into the wind, and then you watch the meter and see how high the ball raises. So typically I just hold it into the wind and read the scale on the left. So if the wind was over 10 miles an hour, which you can see is the top of the left scale, then I would hold my finger over this and then I would read the scale on the right. I put this little thread on the bottom, so I'll hold this thing out at arm's length such that the thread is blowing straight towards me, and then I know I'm facing straight into the wind. There we go. Getting a little bit. So now let's write down our wind reading. The first number is our steady wind, which is 0, and then gusts up to 2 miles an hour. And then we'll put various as the direction because it's changing. And then this next area is just for little notes. Often I'll write down whether it's cloudy or clear. Looks pretty cloudy. Cloudy. So most of the time my weather just sits here in the notebook and never gets used, but it's possible that someone could ask me for it over the radio at some point and then I could tell it to them. If there's anything that wasn't clear or anything that I didn't talk about, please feel free to ask in the comments and I'll try to get back to you. Have a good evening and I'll see you tomorrow.